I'm a seeker. I've only come across this term a while ago, but it perfectly describes my journey in terms of seeking knowledge, seeking truth, seeking wisdom, seeking my inner being, seeking justice, seeking equality. And I'm not saying that all of these are, positive traits to be chased, but that's just me, I can bring up the example of geopolitics and how the world works in the background in terms of that Western life experience, right? I learned super young that there are different forces out there, working against us humans and trying to get us to fight each other and try to divide us and try to bring us away from the real path. I learned that probably too young. So a part of my family has gone through war, and they've gone through the hardship of their home being destroyed and witnessing all of that, and it's in the lineage, right? And so I learned that this is real, right? I felt it, and I've always felt it, and I've seen with my own eyes, right? Like how, let's say, my cousin, lost all his hair in the war, and how it still affects him, like 20 years later or so. And it is, I think it is crucial to understand that once you've seen and once you've experienced something like this, that you cannot unsee it, right? Like, I haven't experienced war myself, but I think I feel with these people because they're my family, right? And I think it's different when you have someone close that has lived through that you are able to experience it in a different way than just seeing it on TV, right? Because these wars, they always go on. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily help the narrative that they try to bring across, and they try to keep alive, so they don't push it through mass media. For example, the war in Yemen that's been going on for decades, just one example. And so always be aware why these special wars are picked out, and they get the attention, and especially when all the mass media, all of a sudden at the same point in time they start reporting on a specific topic. You should always be, mindful and careful with that type of content, because that is put out there in a controlled manner, and there's a reason for it, and there's a certain reaction that they want from this, and that there's a certain outcome that they know that will happen through feeding the masses with these types of information. But I'm digressing. Why it is crucial to understand how my journey was, because I learned about all these topics very early on, right? I learned about them probably maybe 12, 13, 14 was the first time I was visiting my grandma's old home, and like consciously, right? And I wanted to leave the streets on one side, and I couldn't because they told me that there were mines still there, right? And I remember that moment because that made me start to think about these topics, right? Like, why are there still mines like buried in the ground so many years after the actual happening. And why would somebody put mines there, like what's the point of this, And so I dove deep into all these rabbit holes by the age of 15, 16, and then, even throughout university, because I never really, studied anything at uni. I, went out and worked and, read books about like these topics, because I was interested in it. So I went super deep on all these geopolitical topics and oil and money and what is money and the Fed and credit and all that good stuff. And so I learned about all of this, and I would say probably too early for my taste, because it kind of pushed me into this state of, well, it's so fucked up out there. What's the point of this existence? Because if you really learn about these topics, if you really, get to know the systems that are put in place to keep us in a certain spot, and how we are made slaves to the system, through taxation, through, birth certificate, like all these things. I don't want to go too deep into these, because those are separate, videos that are important. But there's other people that, do much better content around this, because I'm kind of done with this. I've said I won't, spend my time thinking about all of this anymore, because I did for many years, and it doesn't really help me as an individual to stay in that place, right? So I made that decision to not talk about it too much anymore, and maybe on some podcasts I still do, but that's just when it evolves, right? Like, I don't plan on talking about geopolitics with certain people anymore. And so, where was I? Yeah, so the thread that I just had is lost. So, these experiences have definitely played into, me seeking the truth. Me seeking to get to the bottom of certain topics, right? And because I learned back then that if I put my head down and I dive deep on a certain subject and I look for the information that's out there, because it is out there. It's maybe not out there in the school books, and in the simplest of Google searches, but the info is out there. If you really want to get to the bottom of certain topics, you can. And I learned that, right? And since then, it just never stops. Oh, it never stopped. Like, I always, have these topics that I'm interested in, and it fluctuates, what topic and what niche, and it's always been that that longing for expansion, that seeking of something new, and depth, and understanding, and fully understanding certain things. Not just like the top of mind stuff, right? Or like the 30%, but like the whole thing. Sometimes you have to read a book 30 times to really understand the message. And sometimes you have to work on a certain skill for many years before you really get good at it, right? So these experiences in my lineage, of war and of destruction and of pain, and me subsequently, thinking that the world is so fucked up, that I don't even want to put any children into it, probably played a good part in me, diving into the realm of drugs and substances and exploration on that end, right? Because why not? If this realm is so fucked up, why not, have fun and enjoy life, right? And so, yeah, that's what I did. That's why I started when I was like 18, 19 years old, to really mess with, recreational drugs. And yeah, just get lost in the moment. And yeah, I just kept going, right? Like, I kind of moved through the whole realm of substances, and I only really stopped in my early 30s. As I mentioned in many other videos, the final catalyst was my son being born. And that's when I, finally said, okay, I want to stop this. And I've had all these painful experiences before, and the universe knocked on my door many times before that, but like even like the most excruciating pain wasn't gonna stop me on my exploration journey and in my journey of numbing this experience, because I prefer to be in that numbing experience, right? So yeah, being an excellent father, and being a good father and a present father, and being the best I can in that role, was ultimately my final push to get like really clean, and to really also let the alcohol be, right? Because alcohol was a bitch. Like, it was a super difficult one to get rid of for me. And I'm 2 years sober now from that substance and from that drug, and I have to tell you, this is the most profound change that I witnessed within myself. And it really is a soul-altering substance, right? Al-Ghul, look that up if you want. It makes you put that mask on, right? It makes you go after goals that aren't really your goals, it makes you go after certain, makes you go through life in a non-true manner. You're not true to yourself. You're not true to what your soul really longs for, and what you're supposed to do in this world, and what you're made for. Because you have all these wrong perceptions of yourself that ultimately, end up in you wanting the wrong things and going after the wrong things. Because it's all the wrong perception of it. Like, you think that you want this and that. You think that you want the money. You think that you want the car. You think that you want the model wife. You think that you want, to hang out with certain friends and get wasted. Like, you think buying a new car is the most important thing in your life. You think that having this this trophy wife is the most important thing in your life. You think that going on a holiday, and you think that, you know, people seeing you make money and seeing you, you know, in certain positions and seeing you have power is the right thing to do. And once you stop consuming that drug, and once you get clean, and once your soul and mind get clean, all that sheds away. All that becomes so unimportant. All that gets pushed to the side, and you don't even think about it anymore. But all of a sudden, what you think about is, wow, how was I wrong about me? How was I wrong about what I'm good at? How was I wrong about what I really want to do and what my service to humanity is? And that I want to be of service to humanity and to humans and to this realm and to God ultimately, right? That I want to, you know, be a better father and a more present father. And how wrong was I to run after all these shiny objects of my life? And how wrong was I to let others dictate how my life should look like? And that's when your second life starts. That's when the life that you're ultimately on this plane for really starts. That's when the mask falls. That's when you can look yourself in the mirror for the first time. And for the first time you see the real face. And life becomes effortless after that. If you truly decide to surrender, and if you truly decide to follow your heart and your calling, right? Because also in my case, I was running up the hill all the time. Everything I was doing needed so much more effort. And many times it wasn't working out the way I planned it. Because there was always something coming up in the end. The universe was saying, hey man, this is the wrong path you're on. You're not here for this. And I wouldn't listen. Kept pushing. And using all the substances to be able to push. Because obviously you don't calm down, right? Like you don't take rest. Because you need so much more effort to get from A to B. Because you're not on the right path. And that's why, you know, I chose to do this work now. That's why I chose to guide men and women on that journey that I walked, that I lived through. Because I can see how important that work is. I can see how important it is that someone is doing that work, because I was looking for that person and I couldn't find the right person back then. And I had all these coaches that would, you know, help me for every certain step that I was on, but nobody was guiding me through the whole thing. And it would have been so much more smooth and easier for me and less stressful if I would have had that person. And so, yeah, those are a couple of the reasons why I'm doing this work, why I'm a recovery guide, and why I am assisting and guiding humans help themselves on that journey. Because only you can help yourself. You know, that's the wrong perception out there with all these coaches and teachers and doctors, and you want to give away the power to somebody else. You want to give away that responsibility to heal yourself. But let me tell you, only you can heal yourself. Only you can make that decision, and only you can work through that yourself. You're strong enough. Like, I'm the best example for it, you know? I was at the absolute rock bottom. My rock bottom. And I made it out. And I worked through it. And I changed my life completely. You know, I'm sober now for 2 years. I would have never guessed and deemed that was possible. And I didn't even want it to be possible. Like, I remember me saying, yeah, man, why not? Like, what's wrong with one beer for lunch? What's wrong with a glass of wine for lunch? You know? What's wrong with a line when going out to a bar? You're more talkative. It's more fun. I'm more focused. I can ignore all the noise on the side, right? Because otherwise I hear everything all the time, and I pull everything in, and I want to be just with the people that I'm talking to, or want to be with myself. So why not, you know, do that little upper, and it lets me focus, and it lets me be in the moment. I was that person, and I'm telling you, it's so much better on the other side. To have a clear mind, to be present, especially with your kids. You know, a lot of people always say I would die for my children. I would die for them. If anything happens, I will put myself in front of that, and I will die for them. But that's a completely wrong setup. You know, it's a completely wrong angle to look at it. It's more of, are you willing to live for them? Are you willing to clean yourself up and be fully present for them? Are you willing to be the healthiest parent that you can be, so you can see them grow up and they can see you live a healthy life, and you can be a role model, a healthy role model for them also when you're old, and when they, you know, maybe get a partner, and when they have kids, can you be a healthy grandparent and a present girlfriend, present grandparent with a functioning mind and a functioning body, without Alzheimer's, and, you know, without Parkinson's, and without all that crap that comes for a lot of people because they didn't do the work. So yeah, I hope this makes sense. You know, just a little journey through my thought processes in my life, and maybe it gives you a glimpse into why I was called to do this work. You know, I didn't even go into plant medicine and all of that because it's just part of life for me. You know, it was part of my experience, and it still is part of my experience. I'm still doing the work on many ends, and I will always continue to do the work. But, you know, guiding humans through that journey and through their healing journey is what I'm here for. And, you know, I'm just curious if you feel like that path that you're on is the right path. You know, maybe you were in denial about some addictions that you might have, and that's totally fine. And maybe this video will make you think and will make you reevaluate what you're doing. And that's one of the goals that I have with this content, is to make you think and to make you, you know, dive deep into your inner psyche and maybe sit with yourself for a little bit and get quiet and let some stuff come up, you know, and then you can be true to yourself, and then you can be honest and say, man, me drinking every weekend, me taking lines every weekend, that's also an addiction. And it's not sustainable in the long run. And once you've done that, once you've called out the demon, once you've called out this motherfucker, you know, that's like ruling your life in some sense, that's the first step. Because if you're sugarcoating stuff, if you're always saying, yeah, it's fine, you know, it's not gonna hurt, that's not gonna get you anywhere. It would just make you stay in that loop, and it will make you be in that loop forever until the universe will give you some work to do. Because it will, that point in time will come, I can guarantee you that. Because you're not made for, or you're not here in this realm to just, you know, get drugged up and just, you know, get wasted and just pay taxes. Because you wouldn't be listening to this video until, you know, that 25-minute mark or whatever, if you know, were that person. You wouldn't be listening to this if you were just supposed to stay in that life cycle and stay in that timeline. So hit me up in the DMs if anything resonates, if you have any questions. You know, I'm happy to talk to you and to converse. And let me know if any of this triggered you in a way. Watch out for your triggers. It's always good. Write them down. You know, throughout the day, if you have any triggers come up, always write them down. Because that's where the work is, you know. A lot of the work is with the triggers. And so, yeah, as I said, I hope you're well. You know, I hope you are mentally well. I hope you're physically well. I hope you're spiritually well. If you feel like there's work to do, there probably is, and that's good. You know, you're already on a good path. And yeah, stay strong.